Okay. Hello. My name is Patrick Graybill. My sign name is like this. I am really lucky. Why? I want to let you know why I'm lucky. Because I have a lot of experience. When I was growing up, I had 3 deaf sisters and 1 deaf brother. So the 5 of us were all deaf. The first 2 oldest were born hearing, and then 10 years later, we became deaf. My parents didn't know what to do because they were hearing. They have never experienced parenting deaf children. So they thought that they would bring me to a deaf school. I never learned sign language though. I worked in various places. On the farm, I would collect different things, and as my parents took care of us, they started teaching us some signs. Once I showed that I was catching on and succeeding, my parents were teaching my sisters growing up how to learn sign language. So once I was born, they knew exactly what to do, and they were prepared for how to teach me to sign from the beginning. So both of my brothers and sisters were all sitting at the dinner table, and both of my parents and my hearing parents were talking. My hearing siblings were talking, and if we wanted to take part in the conversation, we would ask, and they would sign to us. But they felt that it was really important for us to be able to read lips, so that once we got out into the real world, we'd be able to have access to communication easier. I preferred going to an all-deaf university because it was a lot more enjoyable for me. . 90% of hearing parents, they never grow up learning sign. So, from my experience, my own personal reasons, I felt it was better to go to a school with friends who also had the same experience as me. And I could learn from them, and they could learn from me. My favorite teacher who was deaf, his sign name was like this. He was such a great signer. He was so skilled. Every day he would stand in front of on the stage, and he would give these beautiful stories in ASL, and I sat and watched. I was completely fascinated. I felt that the language was so beautiful, and I hoped that one day I would be able to sign as wonderful as him. I really thought he was an amazing person. was around 5, I remember going to a play. I was sitting in the audience watching my sister. She was in a play called Huckleberry Finn. And there were so many girls in that play. There were only 2 boys. They didn't really have enough boy actors, and there were so many male roles, so my sister actually played the role of a man. So that meant she had to wear a bunch of black makeup all over her face. And I remember sitting there watching her on the stage. And I could see my sister as Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. And I really enjoyed that play. I remember thinking that once I grew up, I wanted to become an actor. Keeping in mind with my teacher who would tell these great stories with using sign language, I also wanted the same. So I wanted to become an actor while using sign language. I cherished both things. Since my father was hearing and a teacher, he had not when my father went home, he would always create different kinds of games for me and my siblings to play. You know, the one hide and go seek. He would teach us that game or play tag. I remember when I was 10, I was really bored. And I asked him for a new game. Can we play a new game? I asked my mom, can we play a game? And she was in the kitchen cooking and she was busy and kind of shoved me off, and I just insisted to, and I complained, and I really was persistent about playing the game. So I went into the room and I picked up a book. It was called Beautiful Joe. Beautiful Joe was the name of the book. So I opened it up and I read the first sentence and said, my name is Beautiful Joe, and I am. I didn't know what the word meant, so I referred to the dictionary to see how exactly that word was used. So I scrolled through the letters A, B, C, D, C, U, R, E. I found it, and it gave me a vision of what the actual picture was. So when I was reading, my name is Beautiful Joe and I am a dog. So as I was reading, it became like a game for me. So for each word that I did not understand, I would bring out my dictionary, and it was almost as if it was a puzzle. So once I started reading, I learned English a lot better, and although at school I felt really stressed about once I got my assignments back and the grades were low, at home I felt a lot more comfortable being able to read and learn on my own pace. Once I reached high school, I met with a hearing man. And he believed that all deaf people were completely capable So, and he liked to teach William Shakespeare, and I felt as if it was too complicated. The words were too complicated. So he gave me the book Romeo and Juliet, and I remember reading the word Fort Knox, and I thought that meant, Fort Night, and I thought it just meant one night. And when I looked it up in the dictionary, it actually meant 2 weeks. Once I graduated, I went to Gallaudet University. And as my first year, as a freshman, I never really experienced a lot of my first year at Gallaudet, I felt so over my head, but I was motivated to learn. I really wanted to get as much education as possible, so throughout the math class, although it was complicated, I continued on. And I really wanted to become a teacher. That is my goal, and I realized that acting was more of a hobby, and especially in the deaf world. Sure, they do have deaf actors, but for myself, it was really just a hobby, and my number one prioritization was to study. I was such a good student. I made the dean's list at Gallaudet many times, and I continued through college without any problems. Throughout my junior year, I changed majors. I started contemplating that I would change majors to English. I'm going to become an English teacher. But my advisor told me that you can't, because you cannot talk. If you go to school, you can't teach English. So I explained to the woman that I've made the dean's list plenty of times, and I'm very experienced in English, and she just advised me against it. She said that being an English teacher as a deaf man is not a good idea. I could not become an English teacher because I couldn't talk. This meeting really upset me, and I had an argument. We went to the principal, and I met with the principal, and we discussed the situation. He said that if in a semester I continue to keep my grades up and continue studying and continue making the dean's list, I'm doing my homework. No, I'm interpreting.